It's like you're conducting your train on a track.
We have a beautiful team of management team out there.
In 5 to 10 years, there's gonna be capital costs in terms of zoning and supporting developers.
Like, how do you do this? But it changed our lives financially. And
What's that stat? Like 90% of billionaires in the world.
welcome to the Adriana Ostapenko podcast. I'm here with my business partner, Ali Nazarian. Is that how you say it?
Yeah, Nazarian, yeah. You got it, yeah.
It's good to have you here finally.
Thank you, yeah.
Yeah. Get started by maybe allowing you to introduce yourself.
Sure.
Tell us about who you are a little bit.
Yeah, thanks. So, as mentioned, I'm Ali Nazarian. I'm an engineer by trade. Don't hold that against me.
I do a little bit, I have to say.
Yeah. Did have some of my hands in arts and photography and whatnot. And actually one of my dreams was to be a professional photographer and artist when I was a kid. But I guess it was more practical to be an engineer. But I used to do that when I had more time and was not like deep into real estate. I used to do like photography on the side and like lots of adventures, scuba diving and things like that. I haven't been able to do that as in the past few years since I got deep into real estate. But so yeah, I've been in real estate I guess since 2016 I can say. Like that's when I bought my first investment property. 2017 I started building a house, became my own GC, kind of learned the ropes, and then kind of the rest is history. Got into land development, learned about multifamily. And I combined like land development and multifamily to do multifamily development. And so fast forward to now, just focusing on ground up multifamily development, Ontario, New Brunswick, Alberta a little bit. So that's me.
Awesome, thank you. I know you also do some coaching.
Do coaching as well, yeah. Consulting and coaching for multifamily development, and investing in general.
And I guess like you do have like there is a design component to
Yes.
developments, that you like to dive into.
Yeah, actually, that's exactly one of the reasons I really like development is because there's a lot of room for creativity. You can create spaces, you can create things, and it's actually, it's a real great point. I love it because of that I can still bring my creativity to it, but there's also like need for that engineering side as well to get the projects done. So I feel like I'm blessed with having both sides of it, which helps to get developments done.
Yeah. I'm just realizing we started real estate at the same time. I started in 2016 as
awesome.
well. Yeah, that's when I joined a networking group and an educational company to learn how to do real estate.
Nice.
So
That's
at
good.
the same time, yeah.
I started on my own. I wish I had joined the group at that time. I didn't know there was a group existing. I learned everything the hard way. And the most expensive way is learning my experience.
Listen, I'm a fan of coaching.
Yeah.
Anything that I want to get into, I start there.
Hey,
I
have
find
a
a coach, a mentor, and then I'll find somebody who's done it, and I will invest in that.
In anything. Actually, in sports, and I have a kind of a painful story on that. Like when I was 18, I was trying to learn skiing. I had a friend who used to go ski, and I was like, "Oh, this is so cool! I want to get into skiing." And I was like, "I'll just go and learn." Like I was like, "I'll show you the few steps, and you just fall and get up, and you learn." Long story short, one time I fell and I didn't get up. I broke my leg really bad. Had to have 2 surgeries. I had a rod in my leg for like 2.5 years and 2 surgeries, and still dealing with some consequences of that. And that was a big lesson learned to like not to try to learn everything on your own.
Hire a coach, otherwise you're gonna break your leg.
Yeah, exactly. With real estate, when I started building, I kind of had an arrangement with someone who had built before to guide me through it. And that was the other lesson learned. It's like if it's not paid,
that's right. I was just gonna say
they can step away from it.
Every time I try to do something when it's for free to help, it's
if somebody's doing a favor, it's at some point the favor is going to run out. And that's what happened with this friend. He had just built a house, he did help, but then he ended up having a new kid and had a new baby and his business. He was a doctor and his business took off and got busy. He just didn't have time for it anymore. And because we didn't have a contract and it was not a paid arrangement, I could not hold him to it. So I ended up being on my own again and trying to learn. Luckily, I didn't break my leg this time. Managed it, but it was a lot of I guess stressful days and trying to figure things out on my own. But I guess it paved the way for doing bigger stuff. So made an opportunity out of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So let's fast forward to right now.
Yeah.
What do you have going on?
Lots. So we just did kind of a combination of a value add and development project in London where we took a building, added another floor to it, pretty much gutted out the building. Everything is new. So we went through that whole site plan approval and variances and the planning process to add more units. So we went from 9 to 14 units. We're just wrapping that up, just leasing the units, 50% lease. So I'm looking forward to put that in autopilot mode. And then I got a 10 unit development still in the planning stage in Welland in Niagara region. And then we have our project, the jewel of the of the business, the 28 units in New Brunswick that we've been at it for a couple of years. So really excited for that. Yeah. I know you've been in that market for a long time. You can probably remind your audience a little bit about how you've been in that market and how you got there and what you've been doing there as well.
Yeah. It's I haven't recorded a podcast in a little while, so just a reminder, a little bit of my story. Started in real estate back in 2016 as well. We own a construction company. My husband's a contractor, so we kind of use that and leverage that to buy rundown properties and like smaller multifamily and do conversions, mostly to fourplexes. We did about 5 of those in the first 4.5 years. It was a ton of work. Yeah. Like even with the education company, we're still paying our dues and how do you do this? But it changed our lives financially and just who we became in the process of putting ourselves out there in that way, which was beautiful. And then I was pretty tapped out. I was in about 20 units and I was property managing it and project managing it and dealing with investors and tenants. And I was just like, holy crap, it's my full-time job now. And how do I scale? What do I do next? Yeah. And multifamily was the answer to that. I started, and as I mentioned, every time I want to do something new, I'm going to go find the people that are doing it. Started reaching out to investors that I knew that had been in real estate for a long time. And I was asking them, what strategy do you recommend for somebody like me where I am today? And there was a theme, which was multifamily. And I'm like, okay, let me go figure out how to do multifamily. And once again, joined a networking and an education company and shifted markets to New Brunswick. And the reason I'm in Ontario right now, and I had been investing in Ontario for those first 5 years, the reason was I started to look at what else, how can I make it easier when it comes to tenants, when it comes to price points, when it comes to market stabilization. And somebody mentioned New Brunswick, and I thought, again, let me go talk to people that are investing there and find out what's the real deal. Yeah. I did the same thing in Alberta, by the way, and I had a very different results. But anyways, went to talk to people that were investing out there. That's where I met my business partner, Ben, and just started to gather information, called realtors, called property management companies, was just getting doing a lot of due diligence on that market. And I liked what I saw. I liked the numbers. I liked what people were telling me, how well it was going for them there. And I thought, you know what? The next step is to get something. That's awesome. We purchased our first multifamily building there, 7 units. And they went up from there. Within just 18 months, we went from 20 units to over 100 units. Wow.
And how many units do you have now in total in New Brunswick?
Between here and New Brunswick, it's about 120.
Nice. Yeah. So big presence in New Brunswick, and I agree with you. I think New Brunswick is one of the best kept secrets in Canadian real estate. It's under the radar when you look at institutional level. Nobody talks about it. It's kind of tucked away, and I like those hidden gems. It's a hidden gem. There's a lot of, and that's not because of the lack of fundamentals. There's a lot of local big developers. We've met some of them. They're building thousands of units at a time, and it's a very strong market, but it has not come on the radar of institutional like developers and investors yet, which is a great thing that creates opportunities for people like us. Ontario, BC, Alberta, there's a lot of institutional investors that, hey, if you're building an eightplex, an institutional developer will come and build 1,000 units right next to you.
That's right.
They'll have better amenities, they'll have lower cost of capital, lower cost of construction, and it's going to be very hard to compete with them. Whereas in New Brunswick, there's not a lot of that. So I guess you identified that market a couple of years ago, and I think it's still the same. And St. John specifically, and we can talk about that a little bit, has been even more under the radar compared to the rest of New Brunswick. So why St. John? Because
yeah, so originally the reason why St. John was they have a really aggressive immigration program. This is how I first New Brunswick came into my awareness, St. John specifically. I have a friend of mine who lives here in Sarnia, and she said, we're thinking of moving to New Brunswick. And I'm like, New Brunswick? What are you doing in New Brunswick? I like didn't quite even know, like you said, out of the radar. So, and she said, that's because like they will give you a PR there within 3 months.
Yeah,
there's an immigration program, like there were people coming from Brazil. So if you apply through there, you can get your PR card really quickly. So a lot of people are going there, and I'm like, let me take a look what's going on down there. So that's when I kind of zoomed into St. John, and then it so happened that my business partner had properties there, and he knew the market well. So I zoomed even more into the St. John markets.
Beautiful.
And I really enjoyed that it was less competitive than Moncton, which was the other market that I looked at. Yeah. And he had all the fundamentals. One cool thing about St. John, he has a port. It's by the water, and there's cruise ships that stop there. It's really scenic. Yeah. There's a lot of beautiful things.
Export and import.
That's right. So there's some like fundamentals that really attracted me to St. John. Yeah. And the fact that it's even more on the radar than some of the other cities like Moncton or Fredericton.
Exactly. And I think that immigration policy still exists today. I think the news came out in June, not long ago, that even with the reduced immigration cap or reduced immigration targets federally, they managed to get an exemption from the federal government to not reduce their immigration target. So those programs are going to still go strong. And talking to our friend and your business partner out there, like he has noticed with his property management company, he's noticed the uptick in applications. I guess you've probably experienced that in your buildings there as well.
That's right. So we finished a large project, which was a 52-unit building. And it was 4 buildings, and each has about 14 units. And every time one of the buildings would come up for lease, we would be leasing, like fully leased in 30 days. And that was massively through to the immigration. So like young professionals, families are immigrating from different countries. They're starting their lives in New Brunswick, in St. John.
That's right.
Where it has a really much better cost of living.
Oh, affordability. It's unbelievable out there. Yeah. It's probably even more affordable than Alberta now. Because Alberta did go through a peak in like rents went a little crazy out there. But yeah, like it's a very affordable market in New Brunswick for sure.
We put an offer on that property right away. However, my business partner at the time didn't have an interest in land developments. And I thought, who do I know that does developments? And that's when you came to my mind, because we had met a few times at different meetups and things. And I remember you mentioning you did development. I knew you for doing development, so I approached you with the opportunity.
That's awesome.
And the rest is history.
Yeah, for sure. No, I remember we had connected, and that's what happens, right? And I appreciate you bringing the opportunity. And I looked at it, and when you said 2.5 acres, I fell off my chair. I'm like, I'm sure we can do something with 2.5 acres of land in the middle of a developed area. Yeah. This is one of the only large pieces of land left in that very mature residential neighborhood, which is always very attractive because people are, there's a lot of like developments that happen in the middle of nowhere, outside the city, because you need the larger piece of land and more affordable cost of land. But to find a parcel of land in the middle of a developed area and mature neighborhood, that's always a gem. And that's why they jumped on right away, and we had connected pretty well. And we started on that, so we can probably like go a little bit over that. It's been a long journey, lots of ups and downs against like sometimes things. We start knowing that we have taken care of like a lot of the risks, but there's always some challenges that come along the way, and because we've had our fair share of that to get to this point.
We certainly did. I just want to say, like, one of the things that was so attractive, and again continues to be on New Brunswick, we purchased that property for what, $640?
Yeah.
Do you remember?
670, I think. Yeah,
something around there.
Yeah.
It's a 6 units and 2.5 acres of land in a beautiful developed area, like really good purchase price back then. It's been a journey. So we started working on it pretty much right away.
2021. I think it was October or November 2021. So it's almost exactly 4 years now. Land development due diligence during the conditional period is the most important thing. So we did a lot of work on that. We hired the team. I think we had like 3 or 4 concepts, like a worst case scenario, what we can do. And then the best case scenario where we rezone it and we can get to like 70, 80 units on the land. And we did a bunch of concepts through that. And before we even go firm on the land, we had to make sure that it's not a heritage designated.
That's right.
I remember like we checked with 2 or 3 different sources to make sure it's not. We checked the servicing, all this stuff, and we made sure the location is good, which you had already checked that. But we had, I don't know, to this point, we probably went through, I would say, like probably over 10 different concepts on what to do.
First of all, is that normal? Like,
it is normal.
Okay.
Yeah, I think on average, it's like listening to some like institutional developers. They were saying like on average, a development goes through 15 different versions of concepts before it's solidified, because it's a blank canvas, right? It's a little bit different than when you buy an existing property and it's like whatever 10 2-bedrooms and 4 1-bedrooms, and like the walls are there, like all you can do is like, okay, do I paint it this color or that color, or what do I change, how do I spruce it up? But when you're given a blank canvas, there's so many different ways you can do it. Mm-hmm. The way I describe it is a lot of the strategies are like driving on a highway. Once you're on the right side of the highway, just stay in your lane, don't hit other cars, don't hit the guardrail. And there are some signs that tell you this is one exit, you miss this exit, you wait for the next exit, there are some signs. Or there's some other strategies, I would say like maybe private lending, it's like you're conducting your train on a track.
Right.
As long as you keep your engine going, you keep things there, you check on the dials once in a while, it just keeps going, right? But development and land development or multifamily development specifically is like sailing in the open seas. There are no roads, there are no signs, there are no speed limits. So you can go many different ways depending on what kind of risks you want to take, how much risk you want to take. And there could be storms, you never know. There's no quick back to shore sometimes. So you just have to be prepared, right?
That sounds very scary. So why would I do multifamily development then?
So you can really create a very efficient product. You can use a lot of creative strategies to really maximize the value. A lot of the older buildings when you buy, yes, it comes with a little bit less kind of upfront work, but you're handcuffed into a lot of things that are already there, right? Mm-hmm. One of the things is water submetering. Mm-hmm. We love to submeter the water, pass on the expenses to tenants, and increase the value. And like we experienced in our sixplex, it's a very extensive work to do that on an existing building. But it literally costs $0. Sometimes there are companies who pay you to put the submetering system in that building. So that's one of the advantages. We can do a lot of things to optimize the investment when it's new build. The other reason is with the older buildings, it might be 50, 60, 100 years old. No matter how much renovation you do to it, in 5 to 10 years, there's gonna be capital costs. It's material, it's gonna deteriorate. With a new build, for the next 20, 30 years, you're not gonna have major issues. Okay, maybe a few appliances to be repaired here and there. So less headache, right? Speaking of trying to be more autopilot, less trouble, less dealing with, repairs and maintenance, new build is definitely the way. And right now, one of the biggest reasons is, again, when you're sailing in the sea, you want to set your sails in the direction that the wind is coming from. And right now, new builds, because we have a housing crisis, because the government wants more housing, there is a lot of support. A couple of years ago when we first started, we were the villains trying to make money. But now everybody loves us because we're adding units to the market. So there's from all levels of government, municipal, federal, and like provincial, there's support for more housing. We have experienced that shift over the past year and a half. Yeah.
I just saw an article that came out yesterday or the day before, and they were saying that new purpose rental builds are so much more popular now.
So much more
because
popular.
Of a number of factors, right?
Yeah.
Incentives, CMHC, we have the market, the demands, and also just profitability in general too has shifted from building
100%.
for sale to building for rental.
100%. And like a lot of traditional developers who built single-family homes, townhouses, condos, they're just realizing the shift after suffering through basically not being able to profit from that market. And there are no margins in that market anymore. And people are catching on. Lucky for us, we've prepared for that. We're ready to jump in. We've been in that like purpose-built rental space. But that's definitely where the direction is going. And it's the talk of town, right?
Yes.
And because there are more options being put on the market as new builds, if you don't jump on that bandwagon per se, you're going to fall behind. Because now tenants are given options with new builds, nicer, more clean, more efficient, more healthy units to live in. And if you're still, operating like older buildings that are not renovated, and you'll have a lot of competition from these new builds. So it's really the time to get on that and benefit from this purpose-built rental, I would say, movement that's happening in Canada.
That's beautiful. So let's dive into the project a little bit more.
Yeah.
So we, after going through at least, quite a few concepts and different ideas with the city, we had some pushback. We had article written about us as the evil developers, and just some outcry from the community. We did a lot of due diligence of like, okay, what would the community welcome? What would the city welcome? What makes sense financially? What's the size? Where in the land? We did a lot of work and 100%. Came by with this new concept, which has checked marked every box that we went through over the last 4 years, which is a 28-unit stacked townhouse style apartment building.
Exactly.
So from the outside, it will look like stacked townhomes. Some of the benefits of that is there is no common areas.
Exactly.
So it's going to be quite cost efficient to maintain and run the building after it's being built. But tell me more.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like 4 years of work and due diligence, going through, I don't know, I've done pro formas probably on like 10 different concepts and going through like those with a fine-tuned comb. We've talked to a lot of people that are active in that market. I don't know how many other developers and brokers.
We met with multiple builders, developers, architects, engineers, walked through buildings. We did a lot of due diligence.
Yeah, we looked at new builds. We've been talking to contractors for 3 years. We've built a really great network with them. We've worked with different architects.
We met with the city councilors,
deputy mayors, and I guess one of the feedbacks we've had on this concept, which we kind of took from Ontario, and we like literally had to basically hold hand with the architect to hold their hand to like really design this with what we're trying to get. with the city, we had to like do the due diligence. That's like stairs. Do we need double stairs? Would they allow this? So we did a lot of work on this concept, and it's like, to your point, it's checked every box. Not having the common areas, it's a huge, again, talking about reducing expenses. And this is, again, beauty of doing a brand new development, because we can create a product that works best for today's market. As we know, labor costs keep going up, right? Like having people clean the hallways, it's an expense. Heating the hallways, cooling the hallways, these are all expenses that keep escalating.
Even just like neighbor interaction.
Yeah.
Like property management standpoint, we get calls, you know, it minimizes, everybody has their separate entrance.
Or the smell from cooking, right?
There's a lot for granted.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of people actually love that feeling of they're living in their own private home, rather than like walking through a corridor with like 50 doors in it, right? And like having to, you know, some people love the interaction, some people don't. Some people just want to, you know, open their own door, like from the parking lot, grocery, and going right inside, right inside your own house, and not have to interact with other people. And our market research indicated that this is a concept that is really desirable. And there is proof of that in Moncton. I went to visit some of those developments that they've used a similar concept, and they've been very successful. But St. John, again, is lacking behind. And so it is a proven strategy in other markets in New Brunswick, but now we're bringing that to St. John. It is a proven strategy in Ontario. Like there's, and it's so subtle that often we don't even notice. I actually went for a walk the other day and realized like the townhouses right behind my condo, they are actually stacked townhouses with like 4 units. And I never realized it because it just looks like a townhouse. And that's what the neighbors have liked, right? And I guess you touched on it, and we got pushback when we proposed like a big, giant, traditional apartment building. And maybe we can touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, so one of the concepts that we came up with required us to get rid of the current sixplex that's on that land and potentially build something as big as 72
units, I think.
Units,
yeah, 70 to 80 units. Yeah.
And once we put that out into the community, which is primarily residential surrounding that, so it was a massive pushback. And then when we went back,
it was literally a big pill to swallow for the neighborhood.
They were like, no, we don't want a massive building here.
Yeah.
So when we went back to the drawing board, one of the things that I remember bringing it up, I'm like, what if we presented something that looked like homes?
Yeah.
Right? Because that would look very different than an apartment building. Looks like, you know, a flat wall everywhere in every direction. Yeah. And that's kind of when you came up with like, how about stacked townhome? And we just developed from there using some creative solutions.
I guess we had a combination first. We had some stacked townhomes at the back and the apartment building in the front. Right. And then even we looked at it and we're like, if you're standing here on the street, I guess you mentioned that.
I did, yeah.
Like, I can't picture a 5-story here with all the other like residential houses. So I guess maybe talk about how what you felt about that, like when we still had a combination of stacked townhomes and a traditional apartment building.
That's right. So this was we've been to the site several times.
Many times.
And my last visit there, we were still thinking of having a big apartment building in the front and then some stacked townhomes at the back. And I went to the site visit and I literally just walked around and I was just putting myself in like, what if I was living here?
Yeah.
What would this look like? And I'm like, just allowing myself to imagine the space, the building, the view. There's a beautiful view of the water. It's beautiful. It sits on a hill there, so you can see a lot of the city. And I'm thinking like, I cannot imagine this massive building over here. It was just gonna block everything. Yeah. Neighbors' views. It just doesn't sit well with the area. Yeah. And that's the feedback I brought back to Ali when I came back. I'm like, I don't know whether that's the right concept. Yeah. What if we look for something that looks more residential in nature? And that's when
smaller scale.
We shifted a bit.
Yeah. And exactly that. And then there were other factors in there also, like the larger building required underground parking. Right. And when we got cost estimates and run the pro forma, we were a little bit concerned with the economics of the project as well, and we run sensitivity analysis. That's one of the things we do on the project. So it's like, okay, what if the cost gets a little bit higher? And the bigger the building, the more complicated structure you have, there's higher risk of cost overruns. And because there's a time gap between when we fix the project, and on a bigger project it takes longer to get to the construction, and material costs can go up. Like hopefully we'll never have COVID again, but like something like that happens and the cost goes up. If you have a bigger, more complicated project, you have a bigger exposure to those kind of risks. So combining that with the concerns that, okay, this doesn't really fit right from a neighbor's perspective, and kind of feeling for the neighbors as well, and put in combination with the economics and the market, the little bit of softness and concern with like the demand for a larger building, and then thinking about the expenses and trying to lower the expenses as well. Like, all that combination basically led us to think about, okay, how can we get the same kind of project, but in a design form or a build form that's more compatible with the neighborhood, the economics work better, long-term
risk management.
Basically, yeah, it's basically risk management. So that's where I think we were thinking about like something like a 4-story, 5-story building at some point. It would get complicated without getting into like all the engineering, building code stuff, but you would get into like more complicated, like basically a fire alarm systems and the fire extinguishers and like all the complicated stuff that would add cost, but also would be higher cost of maintenance that would affect the value of the building long term. So that's where we basically came up with the idea of these stacked townhomes. It was a bit of a challenge, like I mentioned, like with the architects were not familiar with this concept. So we literally had to teach them. We had an architect firing us for that. They said like, we don't know what you want to do here. This is not what we normally do. We want to stick with our normal stuff that we do. So we had to find a different architect that was willing to work with us and be more creative with the concept and work with the city. The city staff, the building department didn't know what we were talking about. They'd never seen that in St. John. So it was a little bit of like work through all of that, those challenges. But again, like we mentioned, like it checked all the boxes, right? It feels just like stock townhomes, and it works better for construction costs. It's more simpler cost. We don't have all the complicated fire alarm system and sprinkler system, no underground parking. It's a simpler form, lower cost to build, less risk, faster to market. We're looking at 11 to 12 months construction period versus like 18 to 24 months for like a more traditional apartment building. So that also reduces the risk exposure, right? Like things can change if you're exposed to market longer time. So it did check all the boxes, and then we had shift in the policies in Brunswick as well.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, and then the zoning.
The zoning changed, the policy changed. Again, like you
Which
gotta look at where the wind, which direction the wind is blowing, right?
Yeah. Okay, tell us about that.
So I guess people heard like last year the federal government came up with this like housing accelerator fund. They're literally rewarding municipalities if they relax their zoning bylaws and they allow more density and do basically a zoning reform. And that's something that came out, I think mid 2024 or early 2024, kind of trickled down to like different cities, and St. John was one of the cities that wanted to jump on that because they would get money from federal government. I guess I think it was like Prime Minister had a visit to New Brunswick at the time and made some promises if they reformed their zoning bylaws. And it was literally day and night. St. John went from a city that was not pro-development to basically doing a massive zoning bylaw reform, allowing more density, more basically build forms. And they call them cluster townhomes or stacked townhomes was one of the concepts that was introduced. But they had cluster townhomes and then they had stacked multiplexes. Initially, when we proposed this, they didn't have that in the zoning bylaw. So it was actually one of the clarification cases, we had to go to the city planning department and get clarification that you're allowing cluster townhomes, which is basically blocks of townhomes. You're also allowing stacked units. Would you allow this combination? And after some back and forth, and we worked with some very experienced people in New Brunswick that have worked with the city for a long time, and again, like the power of our team out there, we were actually able to get clarification with the city and get clearance that stacked cluster townhomes were allowed. And the trick was to put a notch in the design so it's not one big straight wall, and we got away. We got the approval for that without having to go through a potentially lengthy rezoning process, which would actually expose us to the neighbors' input as well, and they could have delayed or blocked the project. So now we got all that clearance. I guess it was early this year.
Everything seemed to be aligning all of a sudden. After so many no's, all of a sudden it was like, yes.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And that was like the initial contact was I actually physically went there when the city was putting a conference for the developers to actually talk about the new zoning bylaw. And I got to talk to the chief planner for the city. And he was like, yeah, like this is a combination of the things that we're allowing, but we should be okay with it. And so that's basically, again, being there, having that network and talking to people. And it's actually a guy from Edmonton that they brought to lead this zoning basically reform in St. John. So for those who are familiar with Edmonton, it's like one of the most progressive in terms of zoning and supporting developers. And that's, I think, one of the reasons we're seeing the shift in St. John is because of the changes in the planning department and the new people that are there with fresh ideas and fresh concepts. And I think we are probably one of the first people doing this kind of development in St. John, which, again, the feedback from our network out there and property managers, like they looked at our concept and was like, this is really interesting. We think people will love this concept.
Yes, yeah. And it got us to approval. So
yes.
We are happy after quite a bit of work and creative solutions to get our approval. And where are we at with it now? We're finally at the stage where we are ready to move to the next phase.
Yeah.
After we got approvals, we're now accepting partners that want to come on this journey with us on the next phase of actually breaking ground and building this 20-unit apartment building. And we have a few investors that have already enrolled with us, and we're getting the information out there so you find out what we're doing and to see if you want to be a part of it. Yeah,
for sure. So now we have all the approvals. We've basically eliminated a big portion of any risks, which in any development, approval risk is the biggest risk. Because when you buy the land, you have an idea, but you don't know if the municipality will support it or not. And that's basically the risk that we took 4 years ago. And we endured through that, right? Like all the costs and all the efforts, 4 years of work, different architects, different planners, different concepts, and none of this happens for free, right? So there's been a lot of investment gone into this, but really excited. We've got all the approvals in place. So we are ready to go for building permit. We have our financing proposal ready to go. We basically have our architectural to do the detailed design. The concepts are approved by the city. We named this Craigie Lee Apartments, which is the name of that old house that was there. It was kind of a tribute still there. But that's what it used to be called. That's the original owner who used to live in that building, like, I don't know, some very long time, 1800s used to live there. And that's kind of the unofficial name for that old brick house. But now we're making it official. There's a private road that we just got approved for, and it's called the Craigie Lee Loop. I never had to pick a name for anything. I had to pick a name for that road, so that was exciting.
That's cool.
So everything is in place. We're basically ready to go to basically get all the building permits going, and we're gearing up to break ground in the spring of 2026.
So
really exciting. Yeah. It's been a long journey, but really excited. we put all that behind us, all the risks, all the ups and downs, and it's just going to be execution from this point onward.
Yeah. So for anyone who's ever been interested in owning and being part of a team that's building an apartment building, this is a really great opportunity.
Yeah.
Considering we have bought the land, we went through all the process of approvals, and it's ready to go. This is a great time to join. And see this building being built, and then owning it for the long term, a brand new asset.
Exactly.
As Ali said, we do have deep roots in St. John. We have a beautiful team of management team out there.
Yeah.
We know the market really well. We have a lot of units out there. So it's a great time to join us and own a piece of real estate, a brand new piece of real estate.
And the long-term potential of creating wealth, that's is a great potential, and that's it's a proven thing for a lot of us. Obviously, nobody knows what the future holds, but the potential is huge.
I'm doing other things, but my portfolio is stabilized. We have passive income, we have active income, and I was able to step back. And we did refinances, and the money went into my accounts, and I just could take a year off and rest and recover and focus on my marriage and focus on my health and enjoy. And this continues on. My portfolio is still here a year later, and I get to build now. If I want to build more, I get to enjoy what I have, and it gave me a lot of time back to focus on myself and my family and support my mom and help others in the community, and that makes all the difference.
No, 100%, and I think that's the real luxury in life. Having that flexibility, having the time, the flexibility, and not having to worry about your future or your family's future, right? And the way I see it is if I own a property, even if it's not making money today, I know that I have a job, I work, and that was my journey. I had a job, right? But those investments, even if they were breaking even today, I knew that in 20 years when I retire, I don't have to worry about that. If I get laid off, and I did get laid off 3 times, right? And that was really my wake-up call. The first time, I was scared. I was like, how do I live?
Right.
Because my mentality at the time, this is back in 2014, 15, and it was in Alberta when it crashed. Not a lot of people remember that now, but everybody's excited about the hype. But for those of us who lived in that moment, it was really scary.
It's painful.
It was painful. There were no jobs to even apply for, right? And that's when really hit me. It's if I don't have a job, I don't have anything, right? So I'm always dependent on making money to live, and I won't have anything for my retirement because my CPP and RRSP and all that, if I'm not working, nothing's being contributed to that.
That's right.
But then that's what hit me. And then this got into real estate, buying real estate, building the duplex. And then the second time I got laid off, and then we had COVID and all that. First of all, I could freeze my mortgages, but I was still getting my rents. So I was actually having the best time of my life.
Yeah. COVID was actually a good time.
Yeah.
Rentals. Yeah.
As much as it sucked, and it was a terrible event, but it really was a proof for me that this strategy was correct, right? Now I didn't have to worry about, hey, I'm not contributing, I'm not working, I'm not contributing to my retirement fund. And that's actually allowed me the flexibility to start turning into a business. And I was like, okay, you know what? I'm just not gonna even look for work for 6 months and focus on turning my real estate investing into a business. And how can I make this a full-time thing? Knowing that those assets are going to appreciate. In 20 years, I don't have to worry about it. Or I knew a doctor, I think he was an eye surgeon. Great money, making I don't know, hundreds, close to over $1 million a year. Great lifestyle, happy family. And guess what? He was diagnosed with cancer. And he couldn't work for a year. They almost went bankrupt and homeless at the end of the year. Because to maintain that lifestyle, they realize that they're just dependent on that income.
That's right.
Whereas if that money was invested in some assets, in real assets, right? Not like Bitcoin and stuff that you don't know what the price is going to be tomorrow, right? Some real physical asset that is proven through centuries and centuries that is going to appreciate, because they don't make more of land, they don't make more of real estate, right? That would have the comfort, like you would have the comfort that even if I can't work for 2 years, I have an asset that keeps me afloat. I like analogies if nobody has picked up from this conversation now, but it's like those little floaties, right? If you're working to pay your bills, it's like you're in the middle of an ocean and you have to keep swimming to keep your head above the water. The more real estate you have, it's like you get those, like the first, whatever, property you buy is like those little floaties. You buy a rental property, it's like a little, like, you know, a tube around your, you get a bigger property, it's like now you have like a little bigger, inflatable boat. You get to this big multifamily, now you're in a freaking yacht.
That's right.
So that's the other thing about these bigger projects and being part of a bigger investment is, do you want to be on a little inflatable boat? It's great. It's better than being swimming in the water.
Yes.
But would you rather be on a yacht with 20 other people, knowing there's a professional captain and crew getting you through any storms that might come? That little floaty is great for little small waves that comes and ups and downs in life, but it's a choice. Do I want to have that, my little kayak or canoe, or do I want to, share a big yacht with a bunch of other people, knowing that when things get rough, there's a full-time crew and a professional captain and a team in place that's going to keep this going? So that's really the question that investors have to ask themselves. The first step is owning real estate, because that's your floater, that you don't have to keep swimming. But the next step is, do I want to be on a little kayak or a little inflatable boat, or do I want to be on a big yacht?
I love that, because my experience has been, we started with smaller multifamily residential, like triplexes, fourplexes, all the way up to our largest one is 52. And the bigger the building, the better it's doing.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say. That's just economies of scale. That's why we went bigger. We went from the 7 units to a 24 unit, and that's when I went, holy crap. There's something about the number here. There's something about the scale that supports itself in a way that the smaller buildings do not. As the market started to soften, interest rates started to go up, the market started to shift, rental went down a little bit. It was so clear, if you look at my, spreadsheet of my portfolio, the smaller the properties, the worse they were doing. The larger the properties, the better they were doing. And there's just more room there when it's a larger scale. So I completely agree with this, and this is why we are in multifamily, and this is why I've been liquidating my smaller portfolio,
a lot of people are doing that.
Reinvest into the larger apartment buildings. And back to your point, how important it is. In our case, we've been business owners for a long time. My husband and I, we've owned different businesses. He's been primarily on the construction the whole time, but being business owners, we didn't have retirement plans with our company. We didn't have insurance, and we went like, how do we build a retirement plan? And the first thing we did is we bought 2 homes, like one for each of my kids, at the very least. This is what, and every month when the tenants pay the mortgage down and we have cash flow every month, that's a retirement contribution that's being made towards our future, as well as an increase in our cash flow.
That's right.
And that's really where things shifted for us and my family, who at first when I started investing in real estate, they were, skeptical. I don't know what you're doing. I'm definitely not giving you any money. Not that I asked them right away, but they just saw us upgrading our lifestyle. They saw us moving. They saw us buying more buildings. They saw us growing. And they went, what are you guys doing? Like, tell us. How can we participate? And now they all invest with us because they've seen the proof of what real estate does. And especially when you're in it long enough.
What's that stat? Like 90% of billionaires in the world, they made their wealth in real estate. And but it's not a get rich quick scheme, right?
It's not.
It's not like those, oh, I put your money in Bitcoin, it's going to double by next year. No, that's not what's going to happen here, right? If anybody's that's what they're looking for, we're probably not the right.
That's right.
This is not the right boat to get on. That's probably a different boat.
That's like going down.
That's like so that's a boat that's put together with like scotch tape and duct tape and all that stuff, right? So to me, that's not a safe boat to be on. But we like the slow and the steady and the long term.
And honestly, there's room for it all. There's room for like, if you're like the higher risk, there's room for that, but you don't want to put everything on there.
100%.
You want to keep, a good chunk in something that's stable and steady, and it's growing steady over time, and it's a real solid asset. And that's what puts me at peace, because I have both. I have some higher risk investments, and then I have my real estate, which is where I like rest.
That's the foundation, And actually, I was talking to a very savvy investor not long ago, and he said something like really interesting. It's like stock market, crypto and all that stuff, that's where you make money.
That's right.
Real estate is where you preserve your money.
Right. And the same thing with the business. Like the business, even the business of asset management and real estate, which we created a business doing real estate, is where we make the money. And then
then you store it. It's a store of wealth. Yeah. And it builds wealth, right? Or you could say like you run a business to make money, and you invest in real estate to make wealth.
And the truth is, even though we've been running businesses forever, where we made our biggest chunk of money has been real estate.
Yeah.
Nothing has been like it for us.
In long term,
And everybody, when I started in real estate, they kept telling me 5 years. Give it 5 years when you're first starting. And I went okay, 5 years. And it was just like clockwork. When I hit about 4.5 years of being in real estate, so when we did our first big exit and made $1 million and had $1 million in our bank account. And that was just a couple of the buildings that we had sold. And I was just like, this is what people have been talking about. There is money here. And that's really what allowed us to create the wealth that we have.
And honestly, people who bought apartment buildings, rental apartment buildings 30, 40 years ago, because in Canada, we didn't build rental buildings for about 40 years, for a very long time. And that's another reason, you can't buy, maybe now it's starting to come, but up until recently, you would not be able to buy a brand new rental building because there was none built for 40 years. They were all 40, 50 years old. So right now, your options are buy an old 40, 50-year-old building, or you build new.
That's right.
There's the two options. But those who bought it 30, 40 years ago, they're laughing now. The value is just nothing will come even close to the value created, the wealth created in those buildings. Although they don't look like the sexiest building, the most beautiful building from outside, they look run down, those rental buildings that we see around the city, but they are money printing machines, literally money printing machines. And that's why they're still there. Not a lot of people will sell them, unless it's a generational thing, it's passed down and the kids don't have the time to deal with it. And that's where wealth is created.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Yeah. So if you're interested in joining us for this opportunity, reach out. We're going to put some information for you to read our full investor package, and then feel free to reach out to either Ali or I. And we'd love to get on a call and talk through details. Thanks, Ali.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it was fun. And
awesome.
Share more information.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.